we are. I'm so glad that you all were able to get together. You know, it's so hard to do that these days, but here we are in International Women's Month. Cool Moms, brought to you by CoolxDad. And can't really wait to get into this conversation. You know, it's not very often we get to discuss all the things we're going to talk about today, being a mom, professional, personal, all those things. So, why don't we just get right into it? I actually am inspired by some of your work, Danielle, and would love to just the check in,
Yeah.
So I guess, how are you feeling today? How are y'all feeling today?
I'm feeling good and I'm using my tools. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm using my checkpoints with myself, checking in with my head, my heart, my gut. And I have edited my priorities today in order to be able to fully show up here, which means I spent a lot of the morning in sleep, which is rare but essential. So I'm just excited to be here. I'm honored, and I feel like I'm in like a special little sorority right now.
Yeah,
I feel like we need a sign and a sound.
I know.
You
I like
know?
it. Special handshake at least.
You know?
What about you?
I'm tired. And hearing Danielle talk about her checkpoint and her check-ins, obviously that's something that I'm always aspiring to. But I'm here and I'm fully present, and that's a win for me.
Are you, Lacey?
I'm excited. I'm happy to be here too. I am tired as well, but we just keep going and keep moving.
I know what you mean. I feel like if I were to say there's so many ways to answer, it's like I'm always answering, at least in internal circles, it's like tired or busy, right? And I feel like today is a little bit of both, but at the same time, this is so energizing. Like, I love being around people who feed me and I can feed them too. And it just becomes this cyclic, like, energy and love that just keeps going around. And, like, I really think that that is something that definitely keeps me going on a day like today. So,
It's like a virtuous cycle where you get a high return on your energy and then you go and give somebody else
exactly.
that good energy and then it just keeps going. So
Mhm.
I'm really glad and grateful to be here because, like you, I feel oftentimes like I'm on E, like my needle is under the E. And so coming to experiences like this that are just so nourishing, it's like really a relief.
Mm. Yeah, my car has a little, when you go past the E, it says, consider remaining distance or consider remaining range, whatever. And whenever I see that, I was like, is this a metaphor for my life?
Yes, yes,
It is.
Like every
yes.
single time.
Your car is coming to you as your life. Yes.
Exactly. So why don't we just hop right into it? I'm gonna ask a question that just kind of blends the two. How have you evolved? I would say that's more accurate than changed over the years as you become a mother, professionally and personally.
Well, I can start. I mean, I've been a mother for a long time, and I started having kids very young. So I was 21 when my baby daddy and I had our first little baby Elle, and she's 15 now. And so I think when having a child at that age, I mean, I was still a child. And I, had that first baby at college during college years, and so moved away from home to start my own family. And so my mothering evolution has been very, very like synchronized with my personal evolution. Um, yeah, it's been an interesting journey, and I feel like I'm 36, about to be 37, and I'm feeling like I'm just like coming into myself, and it feels really, really, really good. I feel very powerful, and yeah, like I'm going after my happy. I'm prioritizing myself more now than I ever have, and I'm modeling that prioritization in front of my kids. So it's been really rewarding.
Modeling that prioritization in front of your children, that's something that I have discovered, I consider to be late because my eldest is, I had her at 21, but she's 17 now. And so I've just literally started, I would say, on a personal level. Professional, I've always been like very out front, go after whatever you want, you can do anything, always do your best. And it wasn't about perfectionism as so much as like empowering.
Yeah.
But what I've learned over the past year or so, as she's going into this space of where you look up one day, like I remember, it's like when I see your children, Lacey, it's so beautiful to see them in these moments that I remember, but they're so far away. And when I meet people who have new parents, especially if they're professionals, I was like, no judgment. Do what you can, but be as present as you can for those first, yes, their whole life, but those first 5 years, there's so many firsts, you know. And I'm always,
That's
and
when it's the easy.
you know,
Yes.
but yeah, but the
They're
thing is, it's
portable.
like they figure out everything is new when they realize that they're able to throw their voice. It's annoying as hell, but it's cute because you see them like, oh shit, this makes noise. But anyway, the point I'm getting at is like with her, it's always been like whatever you want to be, whoever you want to be, just be a good person. You know, the world has enough whatever people, other types of people out there, just be your best person. But what I didn't prioritize was internally, I've had the conversation for a long time about the difference between being a nice person and being a kind person. I actually don't consider myself to be a very nice person. And I'm okay with that. But I do consider myself to be a kind person, an earnest person, an imperfect person, a loving person, all of the things that I would want my children to aspire to be, but I now look at the importance of being very deliberate and accurate in your speech when you're talking about boundaries, when you're talking about personal and professional needs for yourself, and what it looks like, how a win can look differently personally and professionally over time, and how important it is, especially when you're raising young women or men, but especially women and a Black woman, what it means to truly be able to say, like, hey, sometimes winning looks like stop. Sometimes winning looks like back up. Sometimes winning looks like no. And sometimes winning feels like it's not winning at all. And all of that is cool. And so I realized I'm so thankful that as a parent now, even though with her, sometimes I'm still dealing with the guilt of feeling like I've gotten that a little late.
Yeah.
I have 3 other children. I'm sharing that with her as much as I can, but really pushing to get them to understand it also, where it's just like, I'm going to do what's best for me personally as well as professionally, and actually personally first, because none of the other stuff exists if I'm not okay. And they can see it in the house now, but like that just really stands out to me because that modeling, not even explaining, that's where they learn.
They don't want to hear it anyway.
No,
They
not
don't.
listening.
They want to see. They want to know what you're actually doing.
Yeah.
I notice all the time Knox says and does things that I want to pretend like I don't say or do. And some people are very quick to point out that is you. That's just like you. And I'm like, no, I would never. But it's me. And so it makes me conscious and aware of modeling instead of telling, because I have to catch myself. I do a lot of telling instead of showing her. And it's so important. You're absolutely right. And whenever you can get to it, right? Whenever you have that moment in your life, it's important to really take action and do that, because we're not perfect. And I think that's the biggest thing I learned is I'm not perfect. I'm never going to be perfect. No one expects me to be perfect.
Right.
Was the biggest one. No one expects me to be perfect. And just do your best.
So we were just talking about the evolution of ourselves personally, professionally, over time, post motherhood. Either of you want to share a bit about your?
Motherhood for me was an accelerator.
Okay.
So I have a daughter, she's 7, and I decided to become a mother at about 32. I'm 40, I just turned 40 this year. And it just ignited in me how much I was out of alignment with my personal values when this baby came into the world. I was like, I did not bring this baby into the world to tell her what we can't afford and what we can't do. I was like, no. And so I realized that I was over identified in my role at the time of the 501c3 that I helped to found. I was over identified in religion. I was over identified in my gender identity. I was too heavily leaning on my feminine energy, and I was not developing and, maintaining the masculine parts of me. And I looked around and had so much resentment and so much anger that my body was physically starting to talk to me very loudly through things like back spasms and stomach issues and migraines and all of the ways that I had overridden my own instincts started to come back to me in the form of physical and mental disorder, right? And so I had a moment where I was nursing her and just looking around at my life, and I was like, this is not what I envisioned. And so parenting her actually created this new energy towards me actualizing my dreams and rapidly pivoting in a way that has been revolutionary for me. And her being able to actually see that as it's happening and like grab a book off the shelf and it's my book that I wrote and be like, Mom, you wrote books, and, her be a part of the events that I've curated and the experiences that are a part of my work. Has been really fulfilling. But the most fulfilling thing is I look in the mirror and my 16-year-old self says, girl, you did it. Like, I'm very happy with what we've been able to accomplish, right? And who I am now. And so, but that came after I got sick and tired and was sick and tired because I was sick and tired. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I mean, I think about having children and how it does make it easier for you. Well, for me, made it so much easier to say both no and yes. Because, I mean, I was here, after I had my first child, I was still in Houston and my life was fine. I had a job, I had a place, she had her own room, like, it was fine. But for some reason, and many reasons, it was just like, I knew that there had to be something more than what I was doing. And I started to more physically, mentally, like I could not ignore it. It was like a tap, then a knock, then a kick at the door.
That's right.
That I wasn't living the fullest expression of myself. And I could feel that even at 21, right? I'm in college still at the time, so forth and so on. And so it wasn't woe is me. It was really more so like, okay, I'm not going to stay here and at best be able to work in the marketing department of British Petroleum. Okay, because at the time, Houston wasn't feeling anybody that looked like us in the arts at all.
Oh my
so
God.
let's
In
be real.
any
17 years ago, someone who looked like me was not about to be in any position, role of leadership at any major art institution in this city, and there was no clear pipeline of track on how you were ever going to get there, not even an internship. So in social media hadn't come into play yet. It wasn't even a word.
Yeah.
And so even the information sharing in a commuter culture city, which is very different than being in a transit culture city.
Yeah.
Even the communication pipelines between creators was very different then. And that's why places like, even though I hadn't seen you in years before I came back, I always remembered Eat Gallery because it was a very specific place of incubation and gathering. And Houston at that time was still starving for those types of spaces. And definitely if you're talking about spaces where people who look like us were able to gather on multiple fronts, even if they couldn't fully intellectualize the arts and culture that they were experiencing. Those spaces are important. But I had to get out of here. And so literally people thought I was crazy. I'm not even kidding. I moved to Chicago with a 6-month-old. I knew one person in the whole city, and it was someone from Houston. I was still in college, and I had a friend drive up with me, and she stayed. and we literally lived in a campus apartment together. Although in Chicago it was like a high rise, which is like a testament to Chicago, right?
Yeah.
And it was just like, we're just gonna figure it out. And so literally my friend was my babysitter while I went to class, and literally had the most unrealistic entry into the Chicago workforce on the planet. Half the week I worked at Jerry Springer in the production department. Half the week I worked for Jesse Jackson in the production department.
Not from Jesse to
Yeah,
Jerry.
look,
Like,
no, so if you don't know this, now you know. The reason why the crazies don't scare me is because half the week I caught the King Drive bus north to NBC Tower and worked in the production department at Jerry Springer. And half the week I took the King Drive bus south
oh my God.
and worked in the production department at
So you went from
Operation Push.
So you went from
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm gonna fight somebody to I am somebody. So, is that the
Literally.
that's the vibe?
Literally.
Okay. got
Literally,
it.
but I mean,
Got
the
it.
thing is that the point is that both of those experiences made me strong in different ways,
Yes.
but also gave me a full and very deep understanding of both the best and sometimes the worst in the real way on both sides of humanity, because there were no filters in both spaces.
Yeah.
But the point I'm getting at is that there was this, I was compelled to figure it out.
Yeah.
I didn't have like a net,
I have
Yeah.
a question
you know? Yeah, what's
for
up?
you. Because obviously we both had our babies pretty young at 21.
Yeah.
Do you feel like, I don't know, listening to your story just reminds me of my story. Like I moved to Texas with a 6-month-old and had never been here. You know, and I'm from New York, and my family was like, my friends, all my friends, like, what? You going to
Texas.
like, you know, like I was moving to Zimbabwe or something.
Might as well.
Right.
It's a
Do you
big
feel
change.
like making that choice to have a baby so young, like, just increases your, like, comfort with taking risks? Because, like, I feel like moving,
Absolutely.
for me, like, choosing to keep Elle, because I had choices, right?
Yeah.
Choosing to keep well, back in the day I still got choices today, but you know, choosing to keep Elle was a huge risk within itself, right? And I feel like the big major life decisions that I was forced to make after that point was all like just complete risk taking, which I think has contributed to like who I am today.
100%. And a couple of quick reasons why. One, because I wasn't even married
Neither was
when I got pregnant with Italy, and she was one of the single most, like, it wasn't, I was thinking about maybe I'll do all these things. I wasn't thinking about where else could I be but here. I knew that there are things that I wanted to do, but there hadn't been an unlocking of the possibility, truly. There was a lot of flirtations with different things. I was always an entrepreneurial person, even from a child. But truly, like, to say, okay, I'm going to walk through this door, and either there are going to be steps or who knows, but I'm willing to do that. That came after being her mother. And it wasn't because I was in imminent danger of like starvation or homelessness or anything like that. I mean, like I said, I was, you know, still in college and things like that. But I was really more concerned with, now I can put words to it, is that I never wanted to be the mother that put everything on their child because they became a mother younger. I knew I had choices too, but I always knew that I wanted to be a mother, even though I had teetering ideas on whether or not I ever wanted to be in a partnership or be married or whatever. I knew I did want to have that experience, you know. But yeah, it was like, you have to do this. You have to create space for you to still realize or be on the pathway to realizing the highest or the most expansive or deepest version of yourself. Otherwise, you'll be one of those parents who, if your child, at least I understood that. I don't, there's a lot of things I'm still learning about parenthood even now, but at least I understood then, and I'm so thankful that I knew that I never wanted to be a mother that when my child grew up and told me who they wanted to be, or as they were growing, that I would forcibly try to shape them into being something different to fill in the gaps for what I felt like I hadn't done in my life.
Yeah.
And so there are a lot of decisions that I've made in this lifetime that may have seemed selfish or selfishly courageous or whatever. But at the end of the day, I knew that if I wasn't fulfilled as a human, then I could never be, or at least try, right? If I wasn't stepping out there, there was no way, there was zero chance that I was going to be able to be the type of supportive, loving mother that I wanted to be to my child, to allow them, her, him, whoever,
Yeah.
to be able to discover who they are and be fulfilled.
Yeah.
You know, so
I was probably the opposite of both of you. I didn't think I wanted to have kids. I never thought about being a mother. I thought about being a professional. I thought about having a career when I was 7. That's what I thought about. That's what I wanted to do. That's all I wanted to accomplish was something, if that nature. I didn't know, yet what it was. But having my daughter and becoming a mother, and it was a choice, obviously, but doing that and making that choice made me a better person. It made me way better in my career because it made me more empathetic. It made me more patient. It made me a way better manager of people. I had, and I didn't know it, of course, but I had no empathy for people. I had no just patience for learning. I didn't give people very much grace at all in professional settings. And I, for some reason, made people out to not be people when they were working, right? Like, you can't make mistakes. That was my attitude. And that's just, we're all people all the time. That's not real. Like, that's not okay, and that doesn't help anyone. And I didn't know in the time. I thought, oh, well, I'm just, I'm hard on people, but that's how I have to be. Well, no, you're unfair to people, and you're not understanding of people, and you're not even respectful of all of each other's differences. So having my daughter taught me to just take a step back and remember that everyone's a person, and that we're all trying to figure this out, and that. But it was having her and having to figure out how to be a mother and having to learn patience and understanding for not only myself, but my child and my husband and my family members, and all of that made me way better at my job. I mean, if I had never had her, I probably wouldn't have made it as far in my career as I have now, and probably no further, because
that
you can't
is really interesting.
be that way with people.
There's studies that document women's productivity after children.
Yeah.
So that now the corporate lens is shifting, so that when you employ a woman and she has children, it's almost like, okay,
Check.
on top, she gonna be a good
Listen,
manager.
yes.
She gonna be a good this. She gonna be
Yes.
boundary with her time. Like, yeah.
Because if you ever met, a mother, think about like all of the things, a Saturday.
The mental load.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like mom on Saturday,
Yeah.
right? Like
yeah.
if you a case study on that, the efficiency that's required, like the rare moments of rest. But if you are a mother on Saturday, like how many things do you get done before noon?